you ready to unlock the power within? To let go of fear, embrace vulnerability, and step into a life of alignment and fulfillment? Welcome. I'm Valina Stavropoulou, and this is a journey of unbecoming, discovering a version of yourself you never knew existed. What does it mean to unbecome? It's about release, surrender, radical acceptance, and so much more. But what can unbecoming do for you? In each episode, I guide you on a journey to overcome self-doubt, set empowering boundaries, and uncover the untapped potential within you. Through honest storytelling, insightful interviews, and reflections drawn from my own experience of living with MS, you will find inspiration to face life's hurdles, embrace your authentic self, and thrive. Are you ready to cultivate deeper self-love, experience more joy, and live a life guided by purpose? It all starts now. Welcome back to the Journey of Unbecoming, everyone. I'm Valina, your host, and I'm really grateful you're here with me today. So, have you ever noticed how sometimes your busiest days of your week feel the least fulfilling? How sometimes when you're rushing through your to-do list, your longest to-do list, you end up feeling somehow empty. And maybe you've had that experience of taking everything off your list, only then to collapse in bed at night, wondering, what did I actually do today? So today we're exploring simplicity that might just be the antidote to that emptiness. Now, I'm not talking about the kind of simplicity you see on Instagram, the perfectly minimalistic spaces or kind of the color coordinated closets. The simplicity I want to share with you today is much deeper. It's about coming home to what's most essential and rooting back to what nourishes you. Sometimes life has to slow us down before we remember how to slow ourselves down. For me, simplicity wasn't a trend that I suddenly followed. It found me through unexpected life changes. The MS diagnosis, almost now 7 years ago, forced me to slow down. And slowing down became less of a preference and more of a necessity. And definitely at first I resisted and I clung to my super detailed, organized calendar, my busy pace and my sense of control. But gradually, this had to change. That slowness, which once felt, uncomfortable, became my new reality, and in a way, a kind of opening, like a portal, if you want, into my own presence and also clarity. And that's where the joy of simplicity really lives. Not in having less for the sake of less, but in creating more room for what makes us feel alive. So today we're going to explore together why simplicity can feel unsettling at first, how complexity sneaks into our lives, and sometimes it's more or less like a form of comfort, and what unfolds when we start letting go of what truly doesn't serve us anymore. So wherever you are now, sitting in your sofa, cycling, walking, driving, I just invite you to slow down with me and just take a deep breath in and exhale out. Maybe soften your shoulders and move your neck from side to side. This is where all the tension likes to be. And let this little while together be a focus to yourself. So let's begin. Simplicity is often mistaken for either smallness or minimalism. But true simplicity holds depth. It invites us into stillness we might only notice when life demands it. As I said before, I spent years moving fast, ticking off lists and staying alert, even on my time off. And that was what I knew, that was what felt good, until a mess came to my life and asked, or pretty much demanded a slower pace. It definitely felt strange at first and even threatening, I must say. But over time, slowness uncovered what had been hiding beneath all this rush. During the first year after my diagnosis, my acupuncturist didn't just suggest I try Tai Chi, she practically insisted on it. She said, your nervous system needs this, and it will teach you things that only movement can really reveal. And I had absolutely no idea what I was stepping into. So Tai Chi is often described as a meditation in motion. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's an ancient practice which blends movement with breath and intention. Like each motion flows into the next one with grace, but also awareness. There is no rush, there is just unfolding. There is no fixing, no striving, just a steady unfolding. But here's the thing. I walked into that first class carrying all my old patterns. And that slowness felt really wrong. And it was almost pretty much like offensive on my own system because I was so used to like efficiency, results, and busyness. So I remember particularly there was this Monday evening, it was probably about 3-4 weeks in, and we're practicing something called wave hands like clouds. So it's this like flowing continuous movement where you basically shift your weight from one foot to the other, and while your arms move in slow circles. I was getting really frustrated. And my mind kept racing. I was like, am I doing this right? When will I master these? This is taking me forever. And I truly wanted to storm out. But, in a way, that's kind of slowness felt like failure. But then I knew that this wouldn't work until I changed my attitude around it. And maybe it was my exhaustion, or maybe I just surrendered, but I stopped trying to do Tai Chi in the next classes to come. And I started letting it happen through me. And I felt something that I hadn't experienced before, presence. And not this kind of presence when you're moving, you're kind of like monitoring your performance, but that kind where you simply here, you're just here. And I began to notice all those things that I was carrying, the tension in my shoulders, even during that gentle movement that Tai Chi required. How often I held my breath when I was concentrating, this constant like inner dialogue that was playing in my head. And definitely like how much resistance was actually harming me and definitely not helping me. And that's when I understood simplicity is not about doing less. It's about feeling more. So before Tai Chi, I moved through my days like a headless chicken in yoga pants. After I learned to move through Tai Chi, I was dancing with life itself. And now let's just open the lens a little wider. Modern life often complicates things unnecessarily. We're surrounded by endless apps and strategies and routines promising more productivity and more success and more of everything. And the constant chase can leave us stuck and definitely exhausted. But there are also other cultural traditions that remind us of simplicity's power, such as the Japanese wabi-sabi, which is like to find in the beauty in imperfection, in what's like slightly broken and incomplete. Or the Scandinavian lagom, like not too much, not too little, just enough. And of course, as a Greek, the ancient Greek eudaimonia, Aristotle's, the philosopher's idea of a life aligned with purpose, rooted in balance and virtue. And these aren't just aesthetics. These are ways of living that extend beyond self-care. So simplicity creates room for community and collective well-being. Just for a moment, imagine a world where more of us choose slower paces, like fewer things and deeper connections, the ripple effect would be profound. When we live simply, we not only nourish ourselves, we create more space for others to breathe too. So now, this is your time to reflect. Where has this modern complexity made itself at home in your life? And is there one place where you could simplify today? We all know that simplifying isn't an overnight switch. It's a slow process that builds back bit by bit and layer by layer. And you start notice where your energy is leaking. And you begin to ask yourself, do I really want to keep living like this? In those habits, in those relationships, in those thoughts? For many of the women who come to work with me, this moment can feel quite uncomfortable and almost terrifying. And actually, I remember one client that said to me in one of our sessions, I hadn't realized how much chaos had become my identity. You know, that kind of awareness can feel completely disorienting. It's like entering a space between who you were and who you're becoming. A space where it feels like you're losing yourself before finding yourself again. But simplifying isn't taking things away. It's actually returning to what holds you. It's creating space for what supports your life. And when that shift begins, the pressure starts to ease, your nervous system softens, and you begin to move in rhythm with your life and not against it. So now let's make the lens wider again. Simplicity isn't just personal. It's relational, it's cultural, and it's collective. You know, the world doesn't need more hacks, it desperately needs more harmony. You know, when simplicity is practiced, it becomes a form of repair. Again, for a minute, like imagine workplaces where presence matters more than performance, or schools where being there was just as valued as doing well. And then, you know, communities where success wasn't measured by status, but by dignity. Simplicity clears more than your calendar. It clears the clutter of your mind and the noise of the world eventually. And from that place, inner truth, happiness, and beauty begin to align. You know, they stop being something you chase constantly and start being something you live, something you crave, something you enjoy. So I would like you to ask yourself, is there a habit in your life, a relationship, or a belief that you have right now that's asking to be seen more clearly? And if you soften in it and eventually let it go, how might your energy shift? I want to share with you the simplest ritual that changed my everyday pace. So every morning, before I check my phone, before I open myself to the world, I take the first 10 minutes of my day to just be. And here's exactly what I do. So I lie on the bed and imagine roots coming out of the back of my body, rooting me and anchoring me into the ground. And I take 3 deep breaths. I love the box breathing, so 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. And then I place one hand on my heart and one hand on my belly, and I ask myself, what does my body need today? What does my spirit need today? I don't particularly need answers. I just need to ask. And sometimes, you know, my body wants gentleness. Other days it asks for movement or rest or connection. That small act of pausing and listening changes the entire rhythm of my day. You know, and I know already what you're going to say. Yeah, but Valina, I barely have time to brush my teeth in the morning. How on earth could I do that? Well, I hear you, because I was thinking exactly the same until I start doing it. But what if I told you that you don't need 10 minutes? What if you started with 30 seconds? So right now, wherever you are, I want you to just try this with me. Place one hand on your heart and one hand on your tummy, and take a deep breath and exhale out. And ask yourself, what is one thing I can do 10% slower today? Maybe it's how you drink your coffee, your morning coffee or tea. Maybe it's how you walk to your car. Or it's how you say goodbye to your partner, to your dog, or to your cat. 10% slower. That's it. You know, the unfamiliarity that you feel in the beginning is absolutely natural. You know, we've been conditioned to believe that faster is always better. But I promise you, simplicity becomes something you crave once you taste it. So go ahead, Anna, now and reflect a little bit more on this. What part of you aches for more space? Where do you crave softness? Simplicity honors your energy, your time, and your truth. It doesn't shrink your life. It saves it with intention. And in that intention lies power. The power to create a life that feels true to who you are. You know, in a world that profits from your overwhelm, from your constant striving and trying, from your belief that you're never enough, choosing simplicity is an act of rebellion. It's spiritual and it's deeply personal. Living simply is living on purpose. It's choosing what's essential and having the courage to release what isn't. You know, and sometimes simplicity could look like saying no to that extra commitment so you can say yes to an evening Pilates class or yoga class, whatever you like, a gym class. Choosing a 10 a.m. meeting instead of an 8 a.m. meeting because you can ask, because you can do it. Or turning off your notifications and trusting that your boss, your friends, you know, your family will survive without your immediate response. And also like cooking a meal with, you know, your hands instead of ordering takeaway. And again, not because you should do it, but because it feels nourishing. And sometimes, and that's the brave part, where, you know, the whole act of unbecoming comes in. It means letting entire chapters of your life go, like burning down old roles that don't fit in your life anymore, like daring to start fresh. So I want you to picture your life like a garden, like not a perfect Pinterest garden, but a real one. You know, maybe it's a little wild or some areas where are outgrown. Now, in this garden of your life, what are the weeds? Not the obvious one, like the deeper ones. You know, the beliefs that block your joy, the relationships that drain more than they give, the commitments you made because you believe you must, but not out of your own inspiration. Every single time you pull one of the weeds out, every time you choose to let go of something that no longer fits, you create fertile ground for something new to grow. You don't have to clear the whole garden at once. You can start with just 1 square foot, one small space where you'll say, this area gets to be different. So if your life was a blank canvas right now, completely fresh, no previous marks or expectations, what would you paint first? Not what you think you must paint or what would look good to others. What would feel true to paint? That's your answer. That's where simplicity wants to take you. You are the artist of your life, and you are the director of your own story. And simplicity is your permission to create exactly what your soul is calling for. You know, the reward isn't just the clarity and presence that will come, And these are beautiful, of course, but the reward is remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. And, I'll never be tired of saying that. That's what unbecoming is. Unbecoming doesn't ask you to do more or be better. It's the art of release, surrender, of radical acceptance. It's a remembering of your true essence, like soft, rooted, grounded, like holy enough. And here's what nobody tells you. Simplicity is actually fun. Last week I actually canceled 3 things from my calendar. And instead of feeling guilty, I felt quite giddy like a kid. I spent the evening like dancing badly to music in my kitchen, cooking dinner. And that's the joy of simplicity. It doesn't just create space for peace, it creates space for spontaneity, for silliness, for the kind of aliveness that makes you want to spin around your living room. When you let go of the heavy stuff, what remains is not just calm, it's bright and it's lighter. And simplicity gives you that permission to be delighted by ordinary moments again, to focus on those more, to notice them. And as we prepare to close today, I want you to hold this. When life feels noisy and when the world feels heavy and loud, the most powerful thing you can do is choose the gentler path. As a really good friend of mine, and another quote also says, instead of going on the highway with full speed, just go on the sidewalk. Enjoy a little stop, see the trees, see the river, notice something different, go gentler with yourself. Now, I want to leave you with something you can take with you right now. Mary Oliver asked, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" But today I want to ask you something smaller, something more immediate. What is one thing that you can put down to make room for joy, for playfulness, for simplicity, for spontaneity, for peace? Before you move back to your day, choose one thing, just one, that you'll do differently. And maybe you'll take 3 conscious breaths before starting your day. Maybe you will eat lunch without multitasking, and that's definitely goes to me. Or you'll end up like, you will end your workday 10 minutes earlier and be grateful for what you have accomplished on the day. And your mantra for today is, in stillness, I find my power. In simplicity, I find my truth. Or, of course, feel free to create your own. What phrase would feel like an anchor for you? And I can give you some more examples. It could be less rush, more presence, or enough is already here, or like I choose spaciousness. One of my clients' favorite is these 2 self-paths, which I love it. Choose one of those mantras that meets you where you are. Let it be with you throughout your day, and repeat it when you need it the most. It's amazing how anchoring those simple phrases that may sound simple, but actually they are so powerful. And I want you to remember, simplicity doesn't make your life boring. It's opening the space for you to live more fully, more authentically, and more you. And as I said before, when in doubt, choose the gentler path. And you will see the benefits of it. You will see that you start noticing things more clearly, and you will start focusing on stuff that they truly, truly matter in your life. So Thank you so much for working this journey of unbecoming with me. If this episode moved something in you, something stirred, you can share it with someone that you feel that really needs to hear all this. As always, you can find me at my website, which is mindhierarchy.com, or come and say hi on Instagram at mindhierarchy. And until next time, keep things simple. Don't overcomplicate them. Keep them soft. Keep them coming to you. And as always, keep unbecoming. I'm Valina Stavropoulou, and you have been listening to the journey of unbecoming, discovering a version of yourself you never knew existed. Tune in every first and third Thursday at 9 Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio for a space where you are seen, heard, understood, and deeply supported. Remember, you do not have to find your way back to your heart alone. Each episode invites you to explore what unbecoming means for your mind, body, spirit, and emotions, a transformative process of releasing what no longer serves you. This show is not just about overcoming challenges. It is about celebrating the beauty of letting go and stepping boldly into a life of joy, purpose, and self-confidence. For more information and to connect with me, visit mindhierarchy.com.